What's up, guys? Welcome to 6 weeks out. Honestly, I didn't expect to be here so early, but we got the green light from AJ to run a September show, early September show. So that calls for September 6th or September 13th. They're both going to be out of state, so we will be flying out for those shows. But yeah, I probably look a lot different than the last time you guys saw me. Less body fat on the face as well as under the eyes too. Just genetically, I get a lot of people saying like, "Oh, are you okay? Like, are you getting a lot of sleep?" And I am getting enough sleep. It's just genetically, I get a lot of body fat pulled under my eyes, as well as this season right now for me is allergy season. Hence why we have the good old Claritin here. But honestly, feeling still fairly good, and being 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, around there from show number one, feels good to be in the spot. We just ran through a D volume setup this week, and we will be running through what training is looking like for today, as well as full day of eating, and as well as some of the daily tasks that we do as an online coach too. But aside from that, exciting times ahead. We're looking to come into the first show around 80 to 90% and come in on WNBF Worlds to obviously 100%. So a long show season ahead, but it's exciting, and I'm glad to have you guys along the way. Posing complete, so we get to finally now intake food and fluids, which is our coffee as well as some hydration too. We have our workspace set up right now, but we're gonna finish this up, take a quick 20-minute walk in the sun, and just get to work with our athlete updates. So I don't know why I have this in my hands, but moving on into what we're actually eating for today, it's going to be whey isolate. You guys can see that's kind of the drizzle on top right here. It's just 30 grams of whey mixed with 23 grams of water, mixed in and drizzled over our oats. 50 grams of oats, 100 grams of banana, as well as 100 grams of blueberries. So pretty much like a fruit pie, honestly. There's more fruit in here than actual oats itself. So you could think of like the oats as like the pie base, the cake base, and the fruits just on top with the whey spread. Honestly, such a good meal. If you have like a sweet tooth, this is perfect for it. So we're also pairing it up with a light roast coffee this time. I don't usually do a light roast. I'm usually intaking like a medium roast, but I wanted to try out a light roast to see the extra caffeine, because I read online that light roast has more caffeine than dark and medium, dark being like the most lightest on caffeine. So just wanted to test it out, see if I can get a little bit more cognitive benefits from intaking this. Hey Herman, good morning, man. Front facing, that's why it looks so good here. So keep this up, man. The posing looks so much better this week. Side chest, I can see that you're doing this in a little bit of a different fashion. This is perfectly fine. Remember that we want this chest flush, and it's kind of still like this. So if we can get this like flush, like in this straight line, that would be awesome. But this looks still like very, very nice, man. And we're running very like into new detail heights for sure. Like that shoulder separation now is very nice to see, man. What's up, Eli? Good morning, man. And you have a very competitive physique, man. So it's just all about presenting it on stage through posing at this point. Before we go more into posing, let's cover changes for this week, because we are going to make some changes, not to your food, like I mentioned, but to your training. So I am going to actually move your standing leg curl, which is the official leg curl we're going to keep in from now on, because I know we shifted from seated leg curl to lying, and now we're moving into the standing, which is probably the best one I've seen on you. So because that movement is so difficult to get short, and I could tell you are getting it short from the kind of beginning phase of the set, but I could tell towards the end it's a little bit more difficult to get your hamstring fully squeezed and fully contracted. That's why we're going to move it more towards the beginning of the session. Check-in block done. So quite a hefty amount of athletes going into today. Mondays usually a a heavier check-in block, but a fun block nonetheless, because I typically take Sundays off because that's the time that I like to spend with my girlfriend, and stay away from work. Obviously, as a coach, you're never fully away from work. It's your responsibility to respond to clients when they need you, right? So have to your check-in block this week, but very fun kind of going across everybody's processes. Time to finally eat our pre-workout meal, which I get a lot of comments saying, dude, that looks delicious. And honestly, it's pretty delicious. This is cream of rice mixed with whey isolate. I typically use the strawberry Debbie roll from Rise. Not sponsored or anything. I just think Rise has really good proteins, and I probably shouldn't be saying that because I am an Evogen athlete. But we have the whey isolate mixed in with the cream of rice, Gerber cream of rice specifically, because I don't like to have to microwave my cream of rice. I'm cool with just mixing my whey in. Most cream of rices you need to microwave. So if you guys like flavored cream of rices, you will have to microwave it. Good brands are Fried Foods, Elevate. If you go for Elevate, don't go for the cookie butter flavor. Honestly, it tastes super artificial. But also I have banana in this, 100 grams, 20 grams of dark chocolate. For the cream of rice, I'm doing 100 grams. And for my whey isolate that I mix into there, I'm doing 40 grams. So we're going to eat this up. We're going to go into our last D-volume training day, which is going to be push at a little bit of a different gym today, just because I just think it's better. So we have completely shape-shifted into a new attire. The style is set up for this week, for the last day of this week, is just pulling back volume. Intensity still stays in place. Execution quality stays in place too, just because I personally wouldn't like it. There's no right or wrong way to run a deload, D-volume style training setup, but the overarching goal is just to pull back from training, right? Normal training load and stimulus to kind of come in with a more rejuvenated, recovered, refreshed look. So going to this week, we're just pulling one set from pretty much all our exercises. Any sets or exercises that have only one set, we're taking a few reps off of what we normally do. So like for example, my hacks, 6 plates for like 5 or 6 plates for 6, and I just took off 1 rep, so I hit 6 plates for 5 on the hack squats last week. And we start off this session today with laterals, so we're pre-exhausting our shoulders first going into our press so that we don't activate our shoulders too much, going into what's to be a chest bias press. Obviously some shoulder work will be put in. Also, having shoulders first in the session allows the shoulders to be shortened fully, because a lateral raise, it's very difficult to get into that shortened position of the shoulder, hence why putting it at the end of a session might be a little bit difficult after all your pressing's done, shoulder presses, chest presses, and so on. So that's why we put it in the beginning of the session. But there's no right or wrong way to train, as long as you're training with intent and good quality, that's all that matters. We then move on into a machine incline press, which will be a little bit of shoulder, but definitely majority biased to the mid pec and upper pec area. So you guys obviously know that. But I do consider majority of inclines to be high incline, or just straight flat press instead of an incline. And that high incline is mostly for shoulders. So after we go into the machine incline, which will be more chest bias than shoulder, we move into the high incline 55 degrees, which will then be more shoulder bias and a little bit of chest. And after the high incline, we're doing like 1 set of each aside from the machine laterals, or the laterals in this case, because this gym that we're going to today does not have a stabilized machine shoulder isolation piece of equipment. So we're doing 2 sets of that and pretty much 1 set for all our other presses. So after the high incline, we move into a neutral grip dumbbell. Neutral grip is there, and of course AJ programmed in my split for me, but I can only assume it's to kind of protect the shoulders. Taking a neutral grip, keeping away from that kind of abducted elbow position allows your shoulders to kind of take a break, because we're already doing the normal incline machine press as well as the high incline too. There's already going to be some shoulder activation from those, as well as the dumbbell laterals too. So hence why we're taking that kind of neutral grip position, just to kind of bias tricep and chest. Then after that, we go into chest isolation just to get a little bit more activation straight into the chest. 2 sets of pec deck, which today it'll be 1. And then we move over into tricep isolation work, an overhead position, long head bias, and a short head bias piece of tricep work, which is the push down. So overheads and pretty much short head bias work, 2 sets of each, which normally if we were not taking a tapered back approach would be 3 sets. So technically from a normal training day kind of basis, we do 2 sets across the board aside from more isolation work. Aside from the pec decks too, we only do 2 sets of that because those were regressing earlier on into prep, like very early on. But now pretty much the regressions have only started to barely creep up on us before the D volume week kind of was set up. So hopefully you guys enjoy the training clips from today. Just a reminder that there's no right or wrong way to train, and there's no right or wrong way to D-volume, but there's definitely a more optimal way to train. And you know, in the case of optimal way to D-volume, it's honestly up to preference. So hope you guys enjoyed the training clips. I will be putting in some posing clips too, so you guys can see the difference between this morning's posing shots that I took in front of my backdrop while fasted, no fluids, and fluid is the most important thing that's going to contribute to your overall fullness look. That's why the coaches nowadays that pull water are probably doing it just because their own coaches pull water from their process, right? If you're a coach and you don't understand why certain things are in place, probably should learn why certain things are in place instead of just copy and pasting a plan and giving it to an athlete, right? No body is the same. You know, the understanding and fundamentals behind why certain things are in place should be there, right? That's why I still hop on calls with AJ. That's why I'm still trying to always learn the rationale why copying and pasting is never the optimal route. Now, the only case I would pull water from a client show day is one, in case, whoa, I missed that speed bump right there, but they overspilled in the morning and their fasted look in the morning is typically softer than what their normal fasted look is leading up into the show. Or 2, they're a very water or fluid retentive individual where they need to dehydrate into their stage look. So this is the front load type of person, right? Front loading. This isn't the person that you would do a back load or a rapid back load or even a linear load to. The complicated peak, the very rare individuals, but it does happen occasionally, right? So those complicated peaks are, and it's such a low percent kind of chance you run into those kind of athletes. So just thinking about the fact that most coaches pull water, even though the percent chance of getting an athlete that needs water pulled is very low, it's kind of mind-boggling to me. And I still don't understand why a lot of, especially in the USA, a lot of natural clients work with coaches that work with enhanced individuals. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm probably side-tangenting a lot on this, but I see a lot of my friends, working with coaches that don't know how to properly manage the fatigue of a natural athlete and put their timelines too tight and too short too. And it breaks my heart, man, because, like, for example, I'm taking on my buddy Alex after his show on Saturday. I went to that bodybuilding show, saw his package, and I know how passionate he is about bodybuilding, and he didn't come in bringing his best, and I know he's giving in his best effort, so it just breaks my heart. And he used to work with enhanced coaches in the past, but he wasn't happy with the outcome, and rightfully so. This time he decided to do it himself and was way above his preferred stage weight. We're gonna drop him over into like the 140s, high 140s, and see the look from there. But he clocked it at 162, 163, so a huge kind of gap between him and his preferred stage look where I want him to be. So we're going to completely flip his prep and show him, the difference between a natural prep versus an enhanced prep, which is probably not designed for a natural athlete, right? In terms of training volume, just kind of the speed of the prep too, the timeline, and so on. So if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, follow Alex's process on my page, and you guys will see the difference between his showing from this Saturday to what we're gonna bring him in over come like late October, early November for a New York show potentially, or a North California show. So that's gonna be awesome to see. Meal 3, guys. Meal 3 out of 5 for the day. Veggies. I swear that there were vegetables on this and I didn't skimp out on the vegetables. And I typically like to eat my vegetables first prior to the actual meal itself, which is usually rice or rice base with some meat. In this case, it's 100 grams of raw jasmine rice. Cooked weight, it's around 270 in this case. and 150 grams of raw ground turkey, 99.1. And we're also adding in some Melinda's hot sauce. As you guys can see from the orange, it's the black truffle sauce, I believe. And we've pretty much just put a few spurts here, and we're gonna mix it up into our ground turkey and then top off with some garnish from this wonderful seasoning brand that we are not affiliated with, but has been carrying us through the entire prep. And honestly, the kind of thought of off-plan meals or outside food isn't even there, just because this seasoning is so good. Like, we're not I'm not affiliated with it, but I do have to say that this is some really good seasoning. I've had a lot of seasoning in my time bodybuilding, and this is probably the best. I usually go with like Hawaiian barbecue for my turkey meal, and hickory barbecue, something like that, for my ground bison meal, which you guys will see after this meal. But I'm gonna devour this meal, get to some admin work. We're gonna onboard Alex into the season B lineup for Limitless Bodybuilding, Team Limitless. We're almost done with Alex's Google Sheets. We just finished his training. We just need to set up his diet now, going into pretty much 13 weeks out. So his training's done, but we did run into our meal time. So we're gonna take a little break from making his plan, and we're gonna eat this up. And this time I brought my veggies, so you guys know I'm not skipping out on the veggies. So I will eat the veggies first. So it's ground bison, 150 grams raw. Pretty much almost all my protein sources, meat-wise, are 150 grams raw, aside from my top sirloin, which you guys will see tonight is 200 grams raw. And the way I slit, which is not a meat, it's 40 grams for pre-workout meal, 30 grams from my oats that you guys saw in the morning, and 100 grams of veggies. Same thing for my turkey meal. I don't know if I mentioned that. And we have 50 grams of raw weighed out rice, which totals to around 130 grams of cooked jasmine rice. So the seasoning setup, the sauce setup, you guys know we have to add some things to our food. We don't have to, but it just makes it a little bit more enjoyable. So another seasoning from Feast Mode. This is the honey hickory, and we got the Melinda's hot sauce. Gonna devour this, get to Alex's onboarding video to join the team, and then we will move on into one of my favorite meals, which is going to be the air fried potato and steak meal. Hey Alex, good evening, man. These are your sheets, dude. It's official. You're officially part of the team. So welcome. I'm extremely excited to have you on. Extremely excited to completely turn around your stage package. You know, you're a guy who really enjoys bodybuilding, and you love, and you put so much into the sport that it really pains me to see you come, you know, and place the way you kind of place year after year. And I'm hoping that, you know, with us working together, we can finally change that come your first show, which is set to be November 8th. All right, guys, welcome to Meal 5 in this night light type of setup that we have going on here. We always run into kind of night mode within our, you know, lighting setup that we have in this room. You guys can probably also tell too that in the span of 2 to 3 hours, I just had like this allergy attack, and I am super congested right now. So I honestly just want to eat this meal and go to sleep. Going over this meal, it's a big texture difference from last prep to this prep. Last prep that I didn't really have a lot of texture, like crunch, but this meal specifically has that for me. So these white potatoes that I'm going to show you right now are pretty crispy, and you know, the secret to crispy potatoes is boiling them to where you could stick a fork through the potatoes, then air frying them after. And I also air fry this top sirloin. I believe top sirloin is the leanest cut of steak. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also pretty, the texture is pretty nice. And we also have our veggies too, of course. So 200 grams of raw weight top sirloin, 200 grams of white potato, and we have 60 grams of A1 steak sauce and 60 grams of sugar-free barbecue sauce. So that's pretty much it for a full day of eating, guys. I just honestly want to eat this, get to bed. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next update that I make, whether it's a week from now or a couple weeks from now. If you guys want to follow my process more closely, I do post and update my Instagram a lot more than YouTube. So hopefully I'll catch you guys on there too if you're, you know, specifically from YouTube. In the meantime, guys, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one.